Hello, welcome back to Tiny Artist TV. If you are watching this video after the last Halloween video I posted where I said I will see you next month, I didn't mean that as a see you on November 4th kind of joke. I actually meant next month as in November 6th because I forgot about the Zodiac series, but not so much so that I didn't forget that I would make enough time to do this video. So, hi, surprise, we're doing the Zodiac series again, and we are down to two signs. We're down to Scorpio and Sagittarius, but because I actually doubled up on one of the classes, I actually have three classes to choose from. So for Scorpio, I already know what I want to make Sagittarius. For Scorpio, I'm deciding between Warlock and Monk, and I think I'm gonna go with Monk, just because I feel like Warlock is really close to what I did for Cancer. For Cancer, I did a sorcerer class, but she was a necromancer. Warlocks don't have to make a pact with a dark deity, but I feel like they typically kind of tend towards that way, especially with Eldritch Blast being one of their cantrips. So I'm going to make Scorpio a monk, and I think that actually kind of fits in their personality a little bit, but we'll get into that as the video goes on. So let's get started with the drawing. And of course, as usual, I will also be throwing in facts about the birth flower and the birthstone for the month of November. So this month, we are looking at topaz and citrine for the birthstones and chrysanthemums for the birth flower. If you can't tell, I'm excited. I love drawing flowers that have too many petals, and I already know that I'm going to give her chrysanthemum tattoos. So, maybe I'll make it a guy, because I've been drawing a lot of girls. Let's make this a guy and give him some chrysanthemum, good lord, and give him some chrysanthemum tattoos. So, yeah. As with any piece, the first step starts with gathering references. So I'm just taking a moment to do that here, just kind of going to Google Images and finding what I can find, things that I think are good inspirations as far as what I'm specifically looking to add to this character. And then the next step is the research phase. So I can share the lore behind Scorpio and some facts about the birthstones and the birth flowers as well. When looking through the Scorpio constellations, there didn't seem to be a super consistent general consensus on what Scorpio, the constellation, is actually supposed to look like. Some had extra stars, or some had the lines connecting in a different way. So I pulled a reference that had seemingly the most common representation of the constellation. And because of the way it's on here, I wanted to use that as the inspiration for the pose, just as another way to tie everything in together design-wise, because it just looks very like fluid and dynamic, kind of how you would think of a monk pose. So that's what I'm using for the base of my pose. According to space.com, in Chinese mythology, the constellation was part of the Azure Dragon, and so I looked up dragon poses and martial arts, and none of them quite aligned up to the constellation, so I had to forego that idea. But since we're already talking about some of the lore behind Scorpio, let's dig into it. When referring to the constellation, it's actually appropriate to refer to it as Scorpius, but in astrology, it's referred to as Scorpio. So in astrology, Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac and is considered having the governing period from October 24th to November 21st, which is typically when it's visible in the sky, and it represents the scorpion that stung Orion to death. So with that being said, there are several versions of the myth of Scorpio, the first being the one in which Gaia, one of the Greek primordial deities and the personification of Earth, got angry because a hunter named Orion wanted to kill a bull. She decided to send a scorpion to sting the hunter to prevent the kill. In the night sky, the constellation of Scorpio is in opposition with the constellations of Taurus and Orion. As Scorpio rises above the horizon, Orion falls below it as if falling to his death. The most popular version of that particular myth that I found wasn't that Orion was hunting a bull, but that Orion was threatening to slay all of the beasts of the world, even going so far as to sort of taunt Artemis and her mother Leto, and so they dispatched the Scorpion to kill Orion. Either way, he ends up dead, and Scorpio ends up immortalized in the sky as the one who felled Orion, this pest. I did find a little bit more about Orion too when looking up the myths of Scorpio. Orion is said to be a giant and is the son of Poseidon and Euryale, and was said to be the most handsome man alive. And he and Artemis were apparently hunting partners. And on GreekMythology.com, it says that Orion was a great hunter who boasted that he could kill any animal on Earth, and thus tying back into the myth that Gaia being upset with Orion sent Scorpius to kill him, and the two fought, and Scorpius, or Scorpio, was victorious. The Scorpion kills Orion with his sting, and Zeus raised them both to the stars so mortals on Earth could understand the punishment for excessive pride. Another version of this myth speaks of Orion's hunting skills that turned out to be better than those of Artemis. Since he chose to protect her, saying that she is better at her calling, she starts to develop feelings for him, and her twin brother Apollo grows angry because of her romantic feelings, and then sends a scorpion to kill Orion. Petty. But Apollo, well, yeah, Apollo is moving on. If we want to understand the sign of Scorpio, we have to understand that there is also a spicy side to the myth, in which Orion is seduced by the goddess of the dawn, Eos, abducted by her as many young men were. This made Artemis jealous, and out of anger she sent the scorpion to sting Orion once again. And everyone in Greek mythology is just so messy. Why would you... Oh, just messy. Moving on. According to astrology, Scorpio is a water sign, and the traits of those born under the sign include determination and loyalty. This zodiac sign is associated with death and rebirth, which makes sense when you consider that its ruling planet is Pluto, who is the Roman god of the underworld. Scorpio is one of the most mysterious and intriguing signs in the zodiac. With its personality traits that are both fiery and intense, Scorpios have a reputation for being passionate and determined. Scorpios are known for their innate sense of intuition and sharp analytical skills. They tend to be very perceptive, picking up on subtle cues that others might miss. This often makes them excellent problem solvers, as they can quickly identify problems and develop effective strategies for solving them. In addition to their intelligence, Scorpios are also categorized by their fierce determination. Once they set their sights on a goal, they are unlikely to give up until they achieve it. This tenacity can be both a positive and a negative trait, as it can lead to great success, but also stubbornness and inflexibility. Scorpios are also known for their passion and intensity. They tend to approach everything in life with great enthusiasm and energy, and this could sometimes be the result of impulsive decisions, but it also makes Scorpios very exciting and fun to be around. With that being said, I'm so glad I decided to go with the monk class, because not just this, the determination. Normally when you think of a monk, you think of someone who trains from a very young age to hone their body and hone their mind and just focus in on becoming the best version of themselves. But later on, when I get into the birthstone and the birth flower, that ties even more into, I think, the mindset of when people typically think of monks, especially the D&D class of monk, because the D&D class of monk is sort of an amalgamation of a lot of different Eastern Asian monk traditions, because there are different traditions between Korea and Japan and China and India. Like, they all have their own form of a particular type of training. So the monk class in D&D is almost a blend of those. If you're playing a monk class, of course, you can specialize it to be a more specific type. But I'm rambling. Let me get back into finishing up the Scorpio myth, and then I'll jump into the birthstone and the birth flower. Coming back to what I had mentioned earlier about Scorpio and other traditions, how in Chinese mythology the constellation was part of the Azure Dragon, Scorpio, or Scorpius, the constellation, is not a scorpion to everybody. The Javanese people of Indonesia call this constellation Banyakangram, meaning the brooded swan, or Kalapadoyong, meaning leaning coconut tree. In Hawaii, it is known as the demigod Maui's fishhook. So just some additional little fun facts, because I always like to throw in, like, everyone sees the same stars, but not everyone sees the same thing in the same stars, kind of like how in Japan, the man in the moon is a rabbit making mochi. And as mentioned in the last video, the last Zodiac video, Scorpio is literally attached to Libra, with its claws being the constellation Libra itself. In addition, the biggest star in the constellation of Scorpius is Antares, known as the rival of Mars because of its red color. It represents the heart of the scorpion and is one of the 4 royal stars known as the Guardian of the West. If you would like to know more about Scorpio or Scorpius, I will of course include all of the links and then some down below, but I covered a fair amount of the big notes as far as the Scorpio myth is concerned. So now we're going to move on to the birth flower, which is the chrysanthemum. So the chrysanthemum dates back to the 15th century BC China, where it was grown as a flowering herb used in salads and teas. In Chinese art, the chrysanthemum is one of the 4 plants that make up the 4 gentlemen, representing the 4 seasons, along with the plum blossom, orchid, and bamboo. It was long used in China as a remedy for headaches, reducing blood pressure, and as an anti-inflammatory. It has also been offered to the elderly as a symbol of long life and good luck. The chrysanthemum symbolizes loyalty, friendship, and joy, but, like with most flowers, each color conveys a specific meaning. For example, red represents true love. We've seen that multiple times across multiple flowers. White signifies innocence and honesty, and yellow, which is the one that I'm using to represent Scorpio, symbolizes a wounded heart or neglected love. That's unfortunate. In parts of Europe, the chrysanthemum is seen as an expression of sorrow or a symbol of death and mourning, but the Chinese and Japanese view the chrysanthemum as a sign of youth. It was believed to allow people to live longer and keep their bodies healthier, and according to folklore, 1 chrysanthemum petal at the bottom of a glass of wine would promote longevity. And according to Chinese tradition, the flower prevents gray hair. This is where, if you're familiar with the monk class in D&D, they have a feature called Diamond Body, where at a certain level, they can no longer get sick. I'm pretty sure they're immune to poison. They also live longer than a typical person of whatever race that they are, whether they're human or gnome or orc. They live longer than most of their racial counterparts. So I thought that was interesting that with the chrysanthemum being a symbol of longevity, choosing a monk for Scorpio, it just, again, everything seemed to fall into place as it needed to. Next, I'll go over the birthstones for November. It's more so topaz than citrine, but most websites list both, although topaz is the predominant gemstone for November. So the origin of the gem's name is believed to come from the Sanskrit word tapas or tapaz, meaning fire, and others date its name origin to the Greek word topazios, the name for a small island in the Red Sea. And one other source I found, let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Yeah, other references say the name came from an Egyptian island in the Red Sea, originally called Topazos, where the yellow stone was mined. Given its yellow color, some thought that topaz had the ability to attract gold, and the ancient Greeks believed that topaz gave them strength. Other beliefs range from attracting love to creating invisibility, not unlike another gemstone we recently covered. And during the Renaissance, it was thought that wearing topaz on your left arm would protect the wearer from dark magic. African shamans believed the gem to be sacred, using it during healing rituals, and in India, wearing topaz above the heart was thought to guarantee long life, beauty, and intelligence. If kept in the home, some thought it could protect against accidents and fires, and if left under a pillow, could prevent nightmares. For citrine, Citrine is thought to come from the French word citron, meaning lemon. Often mistaken for topaz, citrine was thought to hold the same powers, including the ability to soothe tempers and bring calm to those who possessed it. It was once believed to bring about prosperity and unimaginable success to those who wore it, and in ancient times, citrine was used to protect against snake venom, evil thoughts, and heartache. Some believe the gem could carry the power and the energy of the sun. Citrine has long been thought to have physical healing powers gained by wearing the gem. So again, in a sense, appropriate that the monk's claw, the scorpion claw weapons that he has were supposed to be made out of citrine. Just imagine it. This is actually where I'm gonna cut the video off because towards the end of this I've just started not feeling super great, so I'm gonna go lie down, take some medicine, drink some tea, see if that helps. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have enjoyed this next installation of the Zodiac series. Have a weird day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.